Hello and welcome to next episode of Frog Manual, and we will be doing manual work with our manual manipulators. This time it's episode number, I guess, like 13 or something, which means that basically we did a lot, and that's thanks to your support, so thank you so much because you're making this possible. And this time we are looking in the FE GBBR, so it's a new kit that was long time ago announced, and everybody in the world was waiting for it, even the children that were not born yet, and obviously all the frogs in all the ponds and rivers, they were also waiting for it. So I present you the kit for Tokyo Marui MWS system. Of course, it's designed not to work only with Tokyo Marui, it will fit to all clones of that system too. But before we dive so deep in this, let's have a look on what do we have in the kit. And this stuff is pretty standard because, as you probably already noticed, the methodology, how these conversions work and so on, is pretty much the same. It's just fitted to different dimensions of the guns and so on and so on. So this time in the conversion we get, as usual, 3 magazines, and these magazines are actually the latest update. So to work in the TM they had to be changed a bit. Now they will work in all the WE, VFC and Tokyo Marui style GBBRs or system GBBRs, and for GHK they should be also fine, as GHK normally could use VFC magazines with some slight modification on the valve. So in this case I believe this will be like semi-final version of the magazines that finally will fit everything. And with these conversions and mags you can own guns from different brands and reuse the same magazines, which was the idea from the very start. Obviously we also have a speed loader, and this time it's latest revision version 2.4. Pretty standard, nothing special, upgraded a bit from previous generations, and lately I always include additional wheel for the speed loader because when formatting the magazines for first use this gets pretty worn up. So you can use the original one mounted in the speed loader, and if after formatting you need a replacement, then here it is. This way we are left with the standard setup. So we have the hose with a trigger guard like usual, and obviously the trigger guard is modified to fit the MWS, which, if you ask me, has extremely weird trigger guard, so this geometry is quite funny, but it works. And in case you'd like to mount it to an EMG M4 Noveske, or how do you spell it, Noveski type GBBR, or maybe to some HAO conversion, either the L119A2 or these HKs, whatever they do, yeah, there is a lot of possibilities, then you need a different trigger guard. So all the models are prepared, they fit to all these guns, I'm just saying it for, let's say, reference. Then we also have the main conversion, and this time conversion itself is one part, but it has this special dedicated part, the valve knocker. If you ever open the magazine for TM you know what this part is. The original will not fit the Frog magazine, so there has to be some custom one, and the rest is completely standard. So 3 headless screws M3x5 to screw the trigger guard in, and some quick connector assembly, US type with sleeves to cover it, and the protection spring on the main sleeve. This assembly was lately published in a separate video. This is an upgrade not present in the first original conversions. So these are all the parts, and yeah, in this video I'll show you how to mount this. But as I just published a universal video about this hose assembly, I will not copy it again. I will just link it in the description of the video so that you know what to do. It makes no sense to record it like 100 times. Let's focus on the main assembly. But if you want to assemble anything, as usual, you need to have the gun to which to assemble it, and this gun is coming to town. Let's put some gun on the table, and obviously for a TM conversion, what could it be? TM M4 GBBR MWS. So this time we will have 4 parts for the assembly and then some testing. We will use the components from the magazine for our conversion. We will modify the trigger block in the lower receiver, and we will do a very tiny modification in the upper receiver. Plus then will be the assembly of the conversion into the lower receiver, and then some testing. This is valid also for all the spin-offs of the MWS. I think I said it. So let's take the magazine and release all the gas from it. If the gas is inside, you need to make sure that it's empty, otherwise it could, blow into your face. You don't want this to happen. So you need to either shoot the gas out of the magazine, or you can use some tool and press the valve here on the rear with the tool and release the gas from the top. Actually, my magazine is empty, so nothing happens when I press it. Just remember to be careful, because if you press it with your hand, the gas could burn you, and you need to face this away from yourself also, not to get burned by the gas. When the magazine is empty like mine, we can disassemble it partially. I think this design is unnecessarily complicated. So first we remove these two pins. And when these pins are out, you see the top of the magazine jumps out, like in my case. So this bottom part is not needed anymore. We can put it aside, the same as these pins, these levers, and the follower. And we are left only with this thing. From here we need to remove two more pins. One is here. And we need to keep it for the next steps of the assembly. And when I remove this pin, I can take out this valve extension, or however we call it. And then I have this pin here, which is quite easy to push out. So we don't need this one. It was here in this hole. And the last one is here. So also I pull it out. And this last pin is also one that I will need for my assembly. Then I can remove this plastic part from the top, and there is a seal in it that I will place onto my conversion, so I keep it too. The plastic part I don't need. And then using a valve removal tool, I dive deep into this hole, at the bottom of which there is the valve. This is like a high kappa type valve, if you are interested in what this is. And I undo it. Yeah, so I need to basically take it out. Okay, this part I don't need, and I need my valve. And when I remove the valve, I just need to make sure that I have all three seals in place. So there is one here at the beginning of the valve, one here next to the opening, and one here on this movable part. Yeah, so I need all three. And I can clean this up to make sure that the seals are okay. Everything is clean and fine. So finally, I will take these four parts: the gasket from the top, the valve, the pin that was holding the valve extension, I mean this part, and this pin that was holding the seal from the front. Yeah, these will go into the conversion. After we disassembled our magazine and we extracted these four parts, we will assemble the conversion in preparation for assembly to the gun. What you will need to do is to screw the valve in, and looking on this valve maybe quickly, you can see in this area where there are the holes, it's kind of like deformed. In the Noveski, it has just two square holes with some narrow connections between the front and rear part. Yeah, and honestly these valves are pretty shit, because if you screw them strongly, they start to crash here. Actually, you see, I just removed this valve. Nobody ever used it for any reason, and it's already deformed. Yeah. So in my Noveski, one that I did, it was crushed so much that it was hard to make it seal properly. With this side, with this second seal against the conversion, I had to straighten it out a bit. I don't know if this is just a random case or does it happen often. I just assembled two of these Noveskis and one of them had it, one not, so you get 50% chance of your valve being shit. But you see that also this valve doesn't look so bright, so be careful when you screw it in, don't over tighten it. You can test it for the leakage. If it's leaking, then screw it a bit more. Definitely not overdo it, because it will break it sooner or later, or just get yourself a better valve, yeah, some aluminum one. Okay, so enough talking, let's just check that all the seals are in place, that they are clean and nice and very O-ring like, and we drop in the valve, and then we take a valve wrench and we rotate counterclockwise like we always do until the threads catch, and then we screw it in. Not too tight, not too light, just to be sealed and test it in the field. Okay, so I feel already that I'm compressing the seals, yeah, so again I will not overdo it. And to save yourself some trouble later on, you can just connect the hose that you have in the kit, yeah, and put a connector on it. It's the, you know, this is the end of the hose, this is the start, but for the test it doesn't make difference, and you can test the tightness. If the tightness is okay, then it's fine. If not, then try to tighten the valve a bit more, and you'll find out what position is okay. And if you have this correct position, then you will save yourself some time with the disassembly of the conversion later on, in case this is not tight. Okay, the next thing are these two pins, and with these two pins, this is kind of this awkward moment where I had something similar like in the R10 conversions from VFC, that you have an idea that seems very bright, and then you need to say it aloud to somebody, and actually this idea is stupid and you're feeling ashamed. So I have the exact moment, because I figured out that these two pins we will reuse, and the conversion is more narrow than the pins are long, let's say, so you need to shorten them, and I could just include some other pins. So maybe in the future there will be those pins. For now they are not. You need to just shorten them, and the conversion width is 16.5 millimeters, so you want to go to 16.4, 16.3, something like this, and this will make the pins fit into the conversion. You can see that the pins are shorter now, so I cut them down, and I made some chamfer on the tip. Again, in the future probably there would be just a fitting pin included to the conversion, but for now you need to take the ones from the magazine. And we will be first assembling this part. You need to apply some grease on that part, and you apply it in the hole here and in this widest diameter area. I use regular Teflon grease, and I put it in like this, and when it's in I need to lock it with this pin, the big diameter one. So I will push it from this side, because I push all the pins from only one side, so that I always know which direction I should push them out, because obviously, as you probably know, these pins have these wider diameter areas, and you need to push them in as the last, yeah. So I set it up, and this hole is not used for any pin, it's this hole here, so this one. And to push it in, it will be quite hard at first, because the holes are tight. Make sure that this valve pusher part is aligned properly, and the pin will go through the hole in it. You don't want to deform it or anything. And the pin has to be flush with the side of the conversion, not to disturb the magazine when it's inserted. And when it is, just let's confirm that it works. You can blow into this pneumatic connector, and you can see if for sure the valve is fully closed when this is assembled. Again, many different valves, different tolerances, and so on. In case this is pushing too strong on your valve and the valve doesn't close completely, just file off rear portion of this part and put it in, and when it's shorter it will not push so much against the valve anymore. Now just remember to clean everything up, remove any sharp edges after any potential filing, and relube everything. So we are left with the gasket. For the gasket we need to remove the top here, and there is one screw, so let's rotate it. Okay, I put the part aside. And small gasket preparation, as in the previous conversions, is here on the bottom. These corners are sharp, let's say, like right angle, and there is this tiny shelf, so I need to cut off these corners. Yeah, on this side you see it's this shelf. So sharp knife, quick work, one corner, second corner, and so on. When the seal has no corners, it will better feel to this rounded area milled in the conversion top. So I need to insert the seal all the way in. These seals are quite strong and stiff, so I push it in and then I put the part here on top. I call it the conversion cap. And I put first the screw here where I took it from. Tighten it nicely. Okay, and now the second pin, and the second pin goes here on top, and you want to make sure that this plastic part is really pressed against the conversion. There is no gap here, yeah, so that the pin goes straight, because this ensures proper compression of the gasket to make it sealed in the conversion. And this way, with the pin pushed fully in, our conversion is ready to be mounted in the gun. Beep, beep. Next step will be a modification of the upper receiver, which is tiny bit similar to WE modification, but it's 10 times simpler. So if you look from the bottom on the upper receiver, there is this wall here, and it's a support for TM mag. And in Frog Engineering mag, it doesn't allow to insert it all the way in, so we just want to remove it. I did not show how to remove upper receiver from the lower, but I believe you know, you just push the rear pin out, push the front pin out, and you take it out. To make this modification cleanly, let's say, I will remove the bolt carrier group with the charging handle. We'll put it aside, and it depends. You can actually, like, you know, pack some tissues and tape it off here inside so that the debris doesn't fall in there, and basically file it off easily. Or you can remove the whole front assembly, remove everything, and then try it. Yeah, from my experience, it's good enough to just tape it off. You need to do it precisely and it will be fine. Just remove all the grease from the inside, because it will attract the debris. So if it's dry, it's much easier to clean up. And what we are talking about, the removal, is this part here. So you see that there is this step with this chamfer that reflects the light right now, and we don't want it. We want this to be flush with the wall of the receiver next to it. You will see tiny bit better how it looks like when I will modify it, because it will be silver, and you will get the idea if you don't understand what I mean. So this silver beautiful surface here was that step. Now it's removed, and it's practically flush with the front wall here inside the receiver. It's probably like 0.1, 0.2 higher. Yeah, there is a scratch a bit deeper, but you see that obviously the whole surface would be scratched if I would file it to 0. Yeah, but it will be enough. It doesn't have to be absolute 0. So I can reloop the upper and then drop my BCG with charging handle back in. And with the receiver I will have to do a few modifications. I will have to first, and most important, make a space to attach the conversion. And it will be very similar to the HK417 type, where the conversion goes under the valve knocker block. But here we have one big block for the whole trigger mechanism, everything here. So we will basically put the conversion under it, and we need to make some modification in it to be able to. So I will show you now how to remove it. And this process is actually quite hard to do, but not from the perspective of the things you need to do, but just how stiff this trigger block sits in the lower receiver. So follow my instruction and don't be afraid, you will remove it and it will be fine. Yeah, it's just really hard to do it. So the first step will be the removal of the fire selector. So I just need to push it from the bottom here. Yeah, so I push it with my finger and I rotate it, and it will start to come out, and I keep rotating it while pushing, and I'm able to remove it completely. Then the second thing will be removal of the mag catch, and this is very simple, like in all GBBR AR types. So I need to push the mag catch as deep into the receiver as I can. Then I can pull this lever and basically unscrew it. So I push it as much as I can. Yeah, if I pull it strong enough, I can rotate it over the bolt catch arm, and when you undo a few turns, you can see that I can now start to rotate this button, so I will finish by rotating this button instead of rotating the whole arm. It will be a bit easier. And there is a spring under the button, obviously, and the lever will drop, and I put it aside. Then the next thing I need to remove is this pin here, and basically I just need to punch it out. This one is a dummy, so don't try to remove it because you can break something. This one is the one I need to remove. Okay, so you see that my pin is out. And the next attachment point, if I open the pin here, is a screw that is deep in here. Yeah, hopefully you can see it. It's sitting down there under the pin. So I'll take screwdriver. So the screw was taken out. And now the trigger box actually is, let's say, loose. But as I already said, it sits in the receiver extremely tightly. So I will have to use some force to really take it out. And the way how I do it is that if I look from this direction into this opening where the selector was, I see a bit of this frame of this trigger block, and I can start to punch it to slowly push it out here, and then insert the tool also to the magwell where the edge will start to appear, and punching it once from this side, once from this side, like this, I can finally push it out. So yeah, have a look how I do it. Yeah, you'll see how it starts to move. I said it will be really hard to take it out. Then here in the magwell there is already some separation, so I can put my tool in here and start hitting it here, just not too much and not too strong. Okay, so you'll see how it's going up, and basically I continue doing this until the trigger block is out. Okay, so you see after a few rounds of punching this, I got to this stage, and remember that the pin has to be open because there is this screw attachment feature on the bottom. It has to go out, and I still push. I can actually take off these parts that are falling, but I still need to push it, pull it, yeah, and finally we are done. So I can put the lower receiver away, and we successfully extracted the part. Okay, so now you can talk about how the trigger box will be modified. So the conversion will go here. This is the front of the trigger box, right? So the conversion will go from the front here, and we will make a cutout in this bottom part, and then we will put the conversion into the receiver and basically mount the trigger box on top of it. This way it will hold the conversion in the magwell and everything will be fine. So what we need to do is we need to make a flat cutout here, and as you see there is a big piece of metal, so it's okay, there is nothing special in this area. Here we will go for 2.8 millimeters height, but it will be a bit tricky to measure it because here at the edge you have a radius, yeah, and it's everywhere. So if I put the caliper like this, it slides over this radius and I cannot take exact measurement of 2.8 millimeters. So if I set it to 2.9 like I did, I can mark a line just under the radius and this dimension will be fine. Yeah, so I put the caliper just under the radius to make sure that I make the big enough cutout, and I mark it from all three sides to make sure that I'm doing this properly. And obviously it can be scratched here and there because of this assembly process. You need to be careful when we will be making this cut and make sure that this dimension you are achieving is really correct, because it will be, you know, a bit different depending on which surface you will catch it. Yeah, so I made this 2.9 line. In case I do too much, then it will be not that big issue. The issue will be, what will happen is that the conversion will have too much free movement because the dimension of the tab on the rear of the conversion is 2.9 millimeters. And for this reason I will basically need to put some shim under or above the conversion so that it's firmly attached. Okay, and the dimension here will be 4 millimeters. So I go for 4, and actually here a bit more is also okay. So again, we have a radius, so I will do 4.25, and I mark it also here and all around and if I will exceed this dimension, so for example I will do 5 millimeters instead of 4, like I said, this will be absolutely no issue. The conversion will not go deeper than it should anyway, yeah, because the receiver will stop it. What I suggest you do, because this removal of the material is actually small, so I will not be disassembling the complete trigger mechanism here. This would be unnecessary, this is quite complicated. What is good enough to be done is to remove these loose parts that are accessible from the outside and then tape everything away. Of course, make sure that you don't have any lube and so on, because the tape won't stick. But I will tape everything away, make the cutout here, and then clean it up, remove the tape, and I will save myself some trouble this way. I'll do this cutout right now, and I'll be back with a result in a moment. You can see I have my cut done. This is 2.9 millimeters, and if I put it against the conversion, maybe it can be visible. Oh yeah, this plastic is falling out. It's tiny bit less than the size of this tab on the conversion here. So theoretically it should push just fine on it, and there is no other way than just assemble it in the gun and try. For this we don't need the bolt catch and so on, yeah, these parts can wait a while. Unfortunately we will be assembling and disassembling a trigger box in the receiver a few times, and it's a nightmare, I know. In all the other, I mean the EMG or the HAO, it's much easier to push this in or pull it out, or even it's completely loose, yeah, so it's easy. But here you can imagine the alignment right now, so we will assemble it this way, and depending if the pin here will go through or not, we can leave it. Of course the conversion has to be stiff in the receiver, so let's try to put it all together. So it's in, my conversion is still loose, but I did not put the pin in here and the screw on the rear, yeah, so when I add these two parts, probably it will be very tight, yeah. And to make sure that this pin can go through, you need to have a look here if this hole for the trigger pin is really aligned with the hole on the receiver. In my case it's almost fine, so probably it will pull in and this conversion will be attached stronger. So let's see how this fits. You can see I pushed the pin in. I did not put this rear screw yet, and actually it's enough to hold the conversion nicely in place, yeah, so it doesn't move up or down. If I look from the top, it has a tiny bit of wobble. So this means that maybe I overdid the cut in the receiver. I will do a fix here in a moment. I will put some thin sheet metal in front of the conversion arms so that it pushes it just a tiny bit back to cancel this movement, but other than this it's fine. What's going on here? You see that this pin fits, but what happens sometimes, and this happened in one of these N4s I did, this hole for the mag catch is not in the middle of the groove anymore. So what I'm gonna do is I'll disassemble this again. I need to take out the conversion, take out the trigger box, and I'm gonna just enlarge this hole a bit down so that the arm goes through nicely. Maybe it's not necessarily in your case. In one of Noveski's I had to do it, because if I take the arm, yeah, and I try to drop it in, it kind of blocks here, so I want it to go through on the other side. And this with this also on this side, it's important to have a look if this side of the hole for the button aligns, because if not, then also you need to file it a bit more so that the button hides in, and especially that you are able to attach the mag catch. So again, I'll do some small work here and there, and I'll show you the result in a moment. Okay, I will check one more thing. I have my modified upper receiver assembly, and I'm gonna mount it, yeah. Okay, so with upper receiver on, I can rotate the gun to this side, and I can investigate how well the nozzle fits to the seal, yeah. It will be very hard to show it, but anyway, I'll try. So you see there under the nozzle there is the gasket, this shiny edge that appears, this short one, and disappears. It should be fitting to the feature on the nozzle which seals against it. Yeah, it's deep in there. It's kind of hard to show. Right now you can see it, yeah? Maybe I'll do some steels to show how it works. Obviously now it fits because I had this in position and I assembled the gun, so the bolt carrier group just pressed on the seal, yeah? But if I pull the charging handle back with the whole bolt carrier group, if I release the charging handle now and the bolt carrier group will travel forward, I want this counterpart for the gasket on the nozzle to more or less fit with the width of the gasket on the front. On the front it should be like maximum 1 millimeter away from the edge. So if I release it, now you need to look again if it fits. Like 1 millimeter distance is still okay, which in my case probably it's fine to have for sure good connection here, because if the hole on the gasket will be misaligned with the hole on the nozzle, obviously the air will blow out instead of blow into the mechanism and nothing will happen. Yeah, it will just leak and not shoot. So this is something you want to check. If in your case the nozzle would stop too early, maybe it's not an issue because we will set the conversion with the hose and trigger guard like we did in VFCs. But if you see it's like dramatically wrong, then maybe you need to file off this attachment point for the conversion or the conversion itself, because maybe it's like tilted upwards and you need to, you know, bring it down so that the nozzle can ride over it. And the other way around, if you see that there is a gap between the gasket and the bottom of the nozzle, then it means that there is no sealing and the conversion is too low. You need to lift it up, so probably some shimming again would be sufficient for this purpose. So I'm gonna take everything apart. I'm gonna fix this area for the mag catch too, and I'm gonna shim with some thin sheet metal the conversion tiny bit to the rear so that it loses this movement that I shown. And actually when I took this out, there's one thing I didn't mention. So the TM magwell is very tight because of the manufacturing process. It has very big draft inside on the front and the rear, so if you compare the width of the magwell here on top and on the bottom, it will be plus minus the same, but in the middle it's much tighter, yeah? And depending on the exact gun, it can be a bit tighter or looser. So if your magazines will be extremely tight, you can file off just a bit. If you look inside, you can see this silver area which is in the middle. This is what the magazine scratched off the paint, yeah, because this is this draft separation line. So just a reminder, in case your magazines are too tight, just file off a bit of each side of this rib. You don't need to like make it completely flat. It will be very quickly improved if you just remove this edge on the split of these drafts in the magwell, yeah, so it would help a lot. So what I did, I filed the magwell. You see that I removed this sharp line. I did it all around, I mean, and I enlarged the opening here. You can see it's silver right now, yeah, it's just like 0.5 millimeters higher, and on this side the hole is similarly just a tiny bit longer. I removed the sharp edges, yeah, because I want to reduce the amount of cycles I need to do to assemble it correctly, because I hate removing and putting in this trigger assembly in the TM. Again, in the Noveski it's not so bad. So now, because I have high confidence that it will be just fine, I will also try the bolt catch and see if everything works perfectly. Hopefully yes. So I'm gonna put this plastic part back in. Here we go with the spring and the bolt catch. And when the bolt catch is in, on the other side obviously we put this metal lever like this. Oh, and with this lever it's good to check if the bolt catch is like you know, it should move very freely, yeah. So if everything's fine, it will. If not, then maybe you need to file somewhere. You need to have a look if maybe there is some area that limits the movement or anything like this that could impair that movement. But anyway, I have it. I have my conversion. I'm gonna drop it all in. And I put it in, so you see that the conversion has no movement anymore, yeah, and everything seems to be fine because the bolt catch is working very smooth. I can take one of the magazines, I can put it in, and without the mag catch, so this area seems nice. Let's try next components, meaning, as I said, I made a hole so that the mag catch works, yeah, it fits nicely. Let's see if I can assemble it. So the spring, then screw a button as much as possible from this side, then push it in, pull it in with the lever, and do the rest until the lever is even with the button on this side. Seems to be it. Okay, looks okay. Let's try the magazine again. Fits. At first it's a little stiff, as you can imagine, but seems like everything's okay. So right now what I should do, I should test the operation. If the trigger, everything works fine, the bolt catch is fine. One thing I noticed in the Noveskis is that when I assembled the conversion, it pushed the bolt catch to the rear, so it was scratching against this surface here on the side where it touches to the receiver, so I needed to file it a bit to make it work better. But in TM, apparently that's not an issue. So I will put the screw back in the rear, I will mount the fire selector. The screw is there, then the fire selector, you just put it in, and from this side you need to move the disconnector away, simply, then move the pin away, constantly pushing on the fire selector, rotate it, and it will jump in. And the fire selector is also in place. And with the complete lower assembled, we can do the functional check. But for the functional check, it's good to have the upper receiver on, because if you know how complicated this mechanism is, it's hard to operate it with your finger, pushing stuff around and so on. So better would be to put the upper on. So let's do it. And a thing to watch out here is that right now the trigger box can be pushed up a bit by the conversion, yeah, depending on your tolerance during assembly. So for this reason you must make sure that when you are assembling the upper, everything's fine here, so that you don't push with the upper on some rib somewhere that prevents you to lock the rear pin or something. Yeah, in my case, this rib here in the front, it was tiny bit too high, so I needed to file just a bit off, yeah, and now it closes easily. If you would have some questions, then of course we can talk, we can clarify. And please remember that I increased this area for the mag catch, so right now it works pretty nice and there's no issue with it. If the magazine would not be, you know, assembled properly, yeah, mine goes in just perfectly, then maybe you need to file off bottom edge of the mag catch so that you have better guiding when you know, insert the magazine. Okay, so if this is ready and we have our upper receiver ready, we can combine them. So everything goes back in place. And right now the functions check, still with no pressure, obviously. So the gun should stay on semi if the hammer is decocked. So I will pull the trigger, gun is empty, no pressure, nothing happens. Yeah, I cannot put it on safe. Yeah, that's correct. So I charge it. Now I can put it on safe. And now let's see if semi works. This is pretty easy. So I pull the trigger, valve is knocked, I pull the charging handle, and trigger is reset. I can do one more try, because I had a guns modify kit for one of the guns I built for this trigger box, I mean. And there the trigger had issues with reset because it had to break in. Yeah, it was pretty funny. So good way to check it if it's okay in your gun or not is to obviously charge the gun, then pull the trigger, then charge the gun, yeah, not releasing the trigger, and see if you move your finger slowly if the trigger resets. In my case it resetted. Let's do it again. Yeah, so now again, releasing slowly if it resets. Yeah, if resets, then it's fine. So for semi, this means that we should be fine. And now for auto, we check it similarly. So let's pull the trigger, and when I pull the charging handle and I release it, I should hear the hammer being released. If I cannot hear it, I can confirm it easily, because if I release the trigger right now, it should not be able to shoot anymore. Yeah? It should be only able to shoot in a case that I reloaded when not pulling the trigger. Yeah? So again, if I pull the trigger and I reload the gun, then trigger should not shoot again. But if I pull the trigger, let's charge it. Yeah, so now if I pull the trigger, then release it and pull the charging handle, I should be able to shoot again, which works. Yeah, so this means that the trigger mechanism, all this alignment here is okay. Yeah, let's put it on safe. And on this side, the alignment of the seal, I already explained it. Yeah, so make sure that it's fine. Then we can take our magazine, empty one, and if we put it in the magwell and we pull the bolt carrier, it should behave like the other guns I showed in different videos. So as soon as the bolt catch has the option to go up, it should go up extremely quickly with a, you know, noise, like a knocking noise. Yeah, yeah, so I heard this noise. Let's do it again. Yeah, so you see that the magazine has enough energy to really move this bolt catch. It's not like vague, it's barely moving upwards. Yeah, because if it's barely moving upwards, from what I've seen, you can have this issue I explained for the Noveskis. Yeah, but other than this, it's okay. And the next thing, the bolt carrier goes all the way forward. This means that the conversion is not too high, doesn't block the movement. So this way I think everything's fine here. And we are left with the last step before the final testing, which is assembly of the hose. And I will just show the beginning of it. I will not do the whole process because I have an additional video about this. I will link it, so this missing part in this video will be in that link. So have a look, it's in the description. The steps that are not covered there are obviously like removal of the trigger guard, so we need to take it out. There is a button here that you need to push out and a pin here that you need to push out. Okay, so the pin and the trigger guard are removed and I will not need them anymore. And then we need to remove the pistol grip. If you look into the pistol grip, deep inside there is a screw, so just remove it. It's a hex screw, so very simply. And you see how it's done. There is a nut here inserted for this screw as a counterpart, so don't lose it. Let's put it aside for the moment. And let's remove the screw from the pistol grip. Okay, with a washer. So now what we need to do is to drill a hole exactly in the middle of the pistol grip, and the diameter should be at least 7 millimeters. Here this pistol grip has a 8.86, yeah, so I will do like 4 millimeters from the top so that it's not so visible, maybe 4.2 millimeters. The middle is marked with a split line on the plastic. Yeah, so let's do it. Okay, then I'll drill this hole off screen. I'll show you the result. I will drill first, like, you know, straight, and then also at an angle so that it's easier for the hose to, you know, go in and not hit against the screw, which we'll have in there later. Let's drill. Okay, and here I have my hole, so I did it like this, as I said, and then like this from the top, so that the hose can dive easier around the screw. If the screw has a too big head and later on you cannot push the hose through it or next to it, you can replace it with a spherical head type screw. Yeah, but probably it will be fine with this one. Okay, so this is prepared. I can put it aside, and I need to take my hose with the trigger guard, and it's placed in a distance that should be fine for you, but the trigger guard anyway slides on the hose. Yeah, so if you need to adjust it, you can. It just has a lot of resistance, but it moves. So you need to connect it. Simply you turn the gun upside down, you take this hose and you push it all the way in. Yeah, all the way. Okay, so that it's sealed, and then you can, for example, rotate it if you need to, and the trigger guard should fit into its position. Yeah, and here, similarly to like we did in the VFCs, when you pull the hose through the trigger guard, you can pull the conversion and it will tilt. Yeah, so if you see that the nozzle maybe is too strongly engaged with the seal on top, yeah, you can pull it down with the conversion through the hose and the trigger guard. Yeah, so if I move the trigger guard a little bit to the rear, so this leftover hose in front will push up the conversion. If I push it to the front and I assemble it, it will pull down the conversion. So this way you can adjust this conversion just a bit to make sure that the fitting between the nozzle and the seal is the best possible, basically. Okay, so in my case it's okay. If I look here, I see the nozzle stays in place quite long. Previously it was more or less okay, yeah, so now no issues. The engagement, you cannot see this from your view because it's so dark inside, but I can see that it's fine, yeah. So like I explained earlier, this proper dimension is kept. So the next step will be to put the nut in here like it should be, put the screw back into the pistol grip, okay, and with the screw inside we take the hose and we push it into the pistol grip so that it exits on the other side, yeah. And if you have trouble because of the screw head, as I said, use a spherical headed screw. Yeah, I had no bigger issues, yeah. So the pistol grip will be attached here. So what I need to do now is to take my wrench, put it in and screw this screw in place here, and this will pull the trigger guard also to this position. And I'm tightening this down completely, yeah, removing the pull, and right now the hose is assembled. What you can try to do is to blow through this hose right now, and you can see if for sure the conversion is tight. So if you are on safe and you blow through the hose, you should not be able to, which I am not, so you don't hear anything. And if I pull the trigger, obviously I need to be on semi on or auto. Right now the air should go through, which probably you've heard, and then reload it again, and whatever the position is, yeah, it should not be able to blow through. And I am not able to. So this means that the function is correct. One thing, also a potential issue I had in one of the guns, I call it the dry farting. So what happens is that in this test everything's fine, but then you connect pressure and the resistance from the pressure and the valve and the return spring in the valve knocker is too big, and the valve cannot be pushed into a position to shoot. So how do you recognize it? As I said, right now function is okay, and when you connect the pressure, the function will be either not shooting at all because nothing will happen, the hammer will be released but it will not have enough strength to push on the valve, or what could happen is like a fart, yeah, so you know the gun would do tss, tss, tss only and not shoot, yeah, because the initial force from the springs and so on is a little bigger, so it pushes the valve just a bit, but then the pressure pushes it back and there is no shot. So if it happens in your case, you need to take this valve pusher part that is assembled in the conversion, the part of the conversion I mean, and just shorten it like 0.1, 0.3 millimeters, because then the hammer, when traveling, it will strike the valve knocker, this will strike that valve pusher part, but it will take a little more time, there will be a little more travel for those parts, and they will gain more momentum when traveling, and they will have enough strength to push this valve completely. So in case you have dry farting issue, that could be a solution. Okay, so right now I'm gonna finish the hose by assembling the covering, sleeve, connector and so on, but this exactly is the topic of this other video, so right now please switch to it, the link is in the description, and we will be back in this topic in just a moment. So right now you've seen the video on how to assemble the hose, yeah, when we have this pistol grip, trigger guard and so on prepared. The very last step now is to take these three M3 x 5 headless screws and attach the trigger guard properly in place. So you take it, and this is exactly the same as always. So remember that you need to apply glue, some quick drying glue, onto the screw, because otherwise it will fall out because of vibration, yeah. So apply the glue, screw in, just enough so that the screw is flush with the receiver walls. And you don't want to go deeper, because if you do, then you can crush the hose running through the trigger guard, right? And then on this side we do it twice, again with the glue. Okay, flush with the receiver, and the same in front with the glue. And again flush with the receiver. Okay, and now the conversion is assembled, so everything is in place, the hose is there, everything's fine. Obviously you should relube all the parts, yeah, so that the gun runs smoothly, and when you do it, all that is left is to take the tank with the regulator and try some shooting. Here is the prepared gun, and what is left after we did all the checks and relubed everything is to connect the pressure. I'm using Redline Mini SFR as usual, 120 psi, conversion can take up to 145. Always, before you connect pressure, put the gun on safe. Mine is on safe. Okay, listen if everything's tight, nothing is hissing, no leakages. So in this case, let's take a couple of semi-shots. Seems okay, some full auto. Also okay, like the rate of fire, pretty nice. Now the magazine, let's put it in there, let's see if bolt catch works. Nice, no problem. If I put on full auto and I hold the bolt catch down and then I release it so that it catches. So as you can see, the gun is fully functional. Now depending on the internals you can get different energies. It depends also on the BBs and the weight that you use, the pressure and the regulator that you use. So it's obviously dependable. I will not measure this exact case because it makes not much sense, as this is not representative. Also, this stock TM M4 has a short barrel. Yeah, inner barrel ends here. It's the 10.5 inch long one. So honestly, I don't know why they did it this way. The rest of the outer barrel is empty, so the result will be quite low. It is around 1.3 joules on 0.28 gram BBs, but you can of course increase the pressure. You can put longer barrel, tighter barrel, better hop, heavier BBs, and it will all change. Also, the NPAS valve, like normally TM doesn't have it. There are aftermarket ones that you can buy and put in. I do not recommend for HPA using the Array Tech magnetic one, because it has like 1/3 of possible range, and for HPA this is not enough. Probably for propane or green gas it's just fine, but in our case in HPA this is far too small range, so that the energy can be set to some higher value. Angry gun, I know exists too, I have not seen it, so when I have my hands on one I can tell my opinion, but I will also make an instruction video in future how to make your own, similarly to like I did about the VFC, and this way having this NPAS you could drive the power to the exact value that you'd like to have. And the rate of fire on this gun is between 15-16 rounds per second, which for a GBBR on HPA is pretty nice value. Thank you for watching. I know that these MWS conversions are long awaited by some people. Unfortunately, it took some time. There were some unexpected troubles on the way, but finally here it is. There is the instruction on the assembly. It fits to all TM counterparts like EMG, HAO, CIMA and others. So obviously what comes next is the last in the queue that everybody is waiting for too, with a 3-letter name, so this will come hopefully pretty quickly. But for now, MWSs, they are here. Thank you for watching. Let me know your comments, leave likes, subscribe, hit the notification bell, let me know what you think. Thank you for your support, and may the power of GBBR be with you.